I'm not going to shout out my real name, but I want to tell you a story of one of the most classic movies of all times that had been out for many years. It was a movie that everyone has seen as a kid, The Wizard of Oz. It was a very good movie of children's films along with The Lion King, Ice Age, Mona, Frozen, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and lots of other children's films that have been in our childhood for so many years and to this very day. What most people do know about The Wizard of Oz is that it's a children's movie that was made in 1939 before World War II. It was a movie that most of our grandparents and even our parents have seen when they were kids, and they had shown us the movie when we were young. To this day, I've been watching the movie non-stop, and The Wizard of Oz was one of my favorite movies as a kid. I'm an 18-year-old Wizard the Odd fan, and I love everything that's The Wizard of Oz related. I mean, I have stuff like the movies, I have the plays, books, and even the toys. I've been collecting this kind of stuff for quite some time now. But what I learned from a few people on Facebook is that they said that there was a violent version of The Wizard of Oz on my group called The Wizard of Oz for Everyone. The next day, I got home from work to see a bunch of notifications from the people who were in my Wizard of Oz group. I never checked my group notifications on Facebook often because I was genuinely busy with many other things in my life. There was something someone posted about 20 minutes ago, and it said, "I know why The Wizard of Oz was not released in 1936, and it was never made to be seen to the public until 1939. Honestly, it was because of the fact that this version was very violent and it was too scary for children to enjoy watching." Then I scrolled more and more into the group posts that I saw. Someone also said that it had violence and even gore in it, too. I had no clue on what they were talking about, so I posted on my group that I was going to a garage sale this weekend to hope to find anything related to Wizard of Oz. The people in my group said, "Hope you find something you like, or that you don't have." The next day, it was Saturday. It was around 9 o'clock in the morning, so I drove my car around to find a garage sale, which was hosted by an old man who appeared to be around 75. It looked boring enough. Maybe my luck will probably find something with Wizard of Oz related things in the garage sale. I parked my car and greeted the old man as he greeted me back. I looked around a bit, but I didn't find anything as I was interested in until I found a box of VHS tapes that were being sold for 10 cents a videotape. I looked inside the box to find some old movies that I liked. There were a few Disney tapes that I wanted to get, so I grabbed at least 4 VHS tapes that I didn't have and that I wanted. Then I saw an odd VHS tape that had nothing on it but a sticker that was a blue star. It was a bit dusty, so I blew the dust away to see the gold marker writing that said, "Wizard of Oz 1936. I was shocked because maybe the people in my Wizard of Oz group on Facebook were right about a violent version of Wizard of Oz. But I was still not 100% sure if I should believe that or not. I walked up to the old man and asked about the VHS with the blue star sticker on it. I also asked the man where he'd gotten the strange VHS tape from. He said that years ago his grandfather and his father were employees on making movies around the 1930s and 40s, and even half of the 1950s, and he was given this strange VHS tape from his grandfather before he passed away. But he also told me that he never watched it when he got the VHS. So I paid him for the tape and with the blue star, and then with the other VHS tapes, and went and drove home to check out the VHS tape with the blue star on top. When I got home, the first thing I did was took a picture of it and send it through private messaging on Facebook to a group of members in my Wizard of Oz group, and they were honestly shocked and told me not to watch it. I thought they were being silly, like I'd never wanted to know, but I wanted to see what was on that VHS tape to see what people had honestly been saying about it. So I went to my VCR and blew the dust away from it, and after a while of it obviously not being used. I rewound the VHS tape, and as I waited for the tape to finish rewinding, I ordered pizza, and it was only around 40 minutes before my pizza came. After the pizza came, the tape was all finished rewinding, so I grabbed myself a soda, and along with the pizza, sat myself down on the couch. My older sister along with my parents were working, so this was a great time for me to watch this VHS tape that I got at the garage sale that I went at today. I pressed play on my remote, and the movie started playing first. There was the warning description, which froze for about 5 seconds, and then played again, and then there was an MGM logo that came on, and this logo came on the screen and started flickering. I was about to eject the VHS tape to figure out what the heck was going on, when the screen stopped flickering. Then the Wizard of Oz movie came on with the opening credits, but I noticed something was odd. The music for the opening credits for the movie was played backwards. What showed on the opening credits were all the actors that I did know that played the characters in the movie, and that was all I could know. The rest of the people I had no idea who they were, and though the screen faded to black after the opening credits. And then the words came up on the screen saying, copyright 1936. I knew this is what most people in my Wizard of Oz group on Facebook had been posting since I went to work a few days ago. Then the screen started to play the movie. It started off with Dorothy and her dog Toto. They were running away from the thing that it looked like what it wasn't. The quality of the film was a bit shady, so I could barely hear what Dorothy was saying. But then I picked up on what she said. "She tried to kill you, didn't she?" I was like, okay, maybe he got hurt or something like that. I'm okay with the children's film, but killed? What the fuck? Dorothy never used the word kill in the movie. In fact, she was never like that in the movie at all. The next scene showed Dorothy trying to tell her Auntie Em and Uncle Henry about what was going on, but I noticed something. Something was on Aunt Em's face. She looked depressed as if she were about to commit suicide or something. All she said was, "Not now, Dorothy, I've no time for your shit." I was shocked with what her aunt said to Dorothy. There was never swearing in The Wizard of Oz. In fact, there was no swearing whatsoever at all. Dorothy was still trying to confess something to her aunt, but but she couldn't, so she went up walking to a nearby haystack, where she begins to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Where she was singing, the screen froze for about 20 seconds. Then it played again, and I knew something wasn't right at all. After the song ended, it started to play the music where it was a sign that it was a character whom Margaret Hamilton played in the movie. I knew who she was playing, as the whole time she played as the Wicked Witch of the West and Mrs. Gulch. I never liked Mrs. Gulch, since she was mean and nasty, but I liked the Wicked Witch of the West a lot more than Mrs. Gulch. She said, "Mr. Gale, I want to see your wife right away about fucking Dorothy." She said it and it sounded like she was mean and shouting, but it felt more of a scream to me. "What did Dorothy do?" asked Uncle Henry. "Her dog tried to bite the living shit out of me, and her dog bit my ankle," she said in a rough and gruff voice. Then the scene cuts to Mrs. Gulch in the house with Dorothy, Toto and her aunt and uncle. "That dog is a fucking mutant. I'm taking her to the sheriff and making sure he is cooked alive and destroyed." Then I was like, the fuck? Mrs. Gulch never swore in any of the movie at all. Then Dorothy tries to beg her aunt and uncle not to let Mrs. Gulch take Toto when they said that they didn't know and they placed Toto in the basket, so Mrs. Gulch could take him away. Dorothy then went away from the scene to cry as the scene cut to Toto, who was able to escape Mrs. Gulch to get back home to Dorothy. As the scene cuts to Dorothy crying, it showed something which looked like bleach. Then I was like, what was Dorothy thinking? Suicide? Just because Mrs. Gulch took Toto? I knew it was hard to let an animal go, but committing suicide? Okay, now I noticed that this was taken too far. Toto jumped from the window, and Dorothy was able to turn around and be happy that Toto came back. "We've got to get away. We've got to run away." It's what Dorothy said as the next scene showed Dorothy along with Toto walking down the road where the music changed. It sounded like Silent Heaven's soundtrack from Silent Hill. It lasted for at least 2.5 minutes, and Dorothy and Toto ran into Professor Marvel, who saw Dorothy and Toto walking. The scene of Dorothy and Toto in the cart went pretty normal until when Dorothy and Toto were returning home in a huge windstorm. I knew that this was a scene where there was a tornado storm. The next scene cut to Auntie Em and Uncle Henry along with the rest of Dorothy's family. They went into the cellar to hide as Dorothy went inside the house, with Toto screaming Auntie Em's name for at least 50 seconds. Then, Dorothy was hit in the head by a broken window as the screen faded to black and said, "This is real, not fake. You are about to see the evil eyes of the wicked and the screams of the fallen." Then the screen faded back to the movie and the scene where Dorothy, who is dreaming, wakes up, and the scene was good, as if it was no bloopers or anything else. After the tornado scene ended, Dorothy wakes up as she and Toto walked out of the house to see that she was not in Kansas anymore. "Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore." I knew that line ever since I had watched The Wizard of Oz in the 1939 version of it. Then Gilda, who appears in a bubble looking depressed. She was in that facial expression like she was about to hang herself. She asked Dorothy if she was a good witch or a bad witch, and she says, "Shut the fuck up, bitch. I'm not a witch. I'm Dorothy Gale from Kansas." Then Gilda asked if Toto was a witch, and Dorothy replied saying that Toto was her dog and not a witch. Her voice was gruff, and the song that Gilda with the Munchkins and the Munchkins sang the song, and it was very much like the 1939 version, when all of a sudden a big puff of smoke came up, and I knew that it was the Wicked Witch of the West. She was having an evil smile like Freddy Krueger did on the Nightmare of Elm Street movies. "I thought you said she was dead," Dorothy said in a shaky voice. Then the audio went so shitty that I couldn't hear a word Gilda told Dorothy about who the Wicked Witch of the West was. And then the witch walks up to Dorothy, and she had an evil glare like Freddy Krueger did in the Nightmare of Elm Street movies. "Did you kill my fucking sister, you whore?" she screamed at Dorothy. But when the audio that improved, after I could hear what Glinda did, the scream that the Wicked Witch of the West did sound like a ghostly scream. "No, it was an accident. I didn't mean to kill anyone," Dorothy said. "Well, my pretty, since I don't give a fuck, you shall die." The witch is a line that made my spine shiver a bit, but also made me like, what the fuck? Why is the Wicked Witch of the West saying that Dorothy was a slut and stuff like that? Then Glinda, who looked angry herself, said, "Are you looking for the ruby slippers?" she asked. The Witch of the West, who was walking towards the ruby slippers, disappeared, and was very angry the rest of the scene. The scene pretty much went well like the 1939 version of the movie until this part happened. "Just try and stay the fuck out of my way. Just try. I'll fucking kill you, my pretty, and your little dog, too." And then I was like, that is not what she said in the movie from 1939. Then Glinda tells Dorothy to follow the Yellow Brick Road to the Emerald City to see the Wizard of Oz, who will get Dorothy back home. She met up with the Scarecrow, who wanted a brain, then they met up with the Tin Men, who wanted a heart, and soon they met up with the Cowardly Lion, who wanted to have courage. All that went well without any faults or anything, not so kid-friendly until the scene appears with the Wicked Witch of the West, who is flying in the sky, as Dorothy and her friends looked out from the inside of the Emerald City to see writing in the city. I was shocked because it didn't say, "Surrender, Dorothy." It said, "Fuck you, Dorothy." Then I almost started laughing because it was funny. But then I said, why say that in a children's movie? Dorothy and her friends walk up to the door and they see the wizard and talk to the guard on the door that they wanted to see him. But after a while, the guard tells Dorothy and her friends that the wizard says go away. Then Dorothy begins to break down into tears. I started to cry. It was very heartbreaking, but when the wizard said was mean. I stopped the video as I went to the washroom to splash my face with cold water. After about half an hour of crying, I went back to watch the rest of the film. It shows a guard letting Dorothy and all of her friends inside to see the wizard when they told him what they want and why they wanted to come and see the wizard for. Then the wizard said, "Bring me the broomstick from the Wicked Witch of the West." Then the screen faded to black and came up with the haunted forest. The music was sounding like it came from the Five Nights at Freddy's fork playing in the background. This is when things began to mess up. The Wicked Witch of the West was looking in her crystal ball to see Dorothy and her friends in the haunted forest. "Take your army to the haunted forest and bring me that girl and her dog. I want you to burn the Scarecrow alive, pour acid to eat the Tin Man's skull inside out until he's nothing but a burning acid pile on the floor. And as for the lion, cut him open alive while he's hanging upside down," the witch said, then sounded like Freddy Krueger. I was like, what the fuck? I thought the Wizard of Oz was supposed to be for children and everyone to watch, not some crazy fucked up horror film. And the next scene showed the flying monkeys heading towards Dorothy and her friends. Dorothy and Toto began to run, but everyone else did not get as lucky as Dorothy and Toto were. One of the flying monkeys had a lighter and lit the Scarecrow on fire. He was burning alive as the fire began to spread all over him. His screams and cries for help lasted for 15 seconds, until he was nothing but burnt clothes and straw. The two other flying monkeys poured acid on the Tin Men when he began to melt very fast as the acid was eating the metal. This lasted for 6 seconds until he was nothing but a burning acid pile on the ground. The next scene shows a lion being hanged upside down as a monkey took a sharp knife and started to cut him open. The scene is the most disgusting part of the flying monkey flight, because the angle never changed at all. The lion's organs began to fall out, as he was soon having his head ripped off from one of the flying monkeys. The scene lasted for 30 seconds until the screen cut to Dorothy and Toto trying to run away from the flying monkeys. Dorothy's friends were dead, but Dorothy and Toto were running away from the flying monkeys, until she and Toto were both grabbed by the monkeys. The screen then faded to black and then cut to the front of the Wicked Witch's castle. Then it showed the Wicked Witch of the West looking at Toto. She had hungry eyes as her mouth started to drool. "What a nice little dog," she says as she puts Toto in a basket. "And you, my dear, what an unexpected pleasure. It's so kind of you to see me in my loneliness." Dorothy was strapped onto a table, which we never saw in The Wizard of Oz from 1939. "What are you going to do with my dog? Give him back to me, please," Dorothy cries as she's begging the witch to give her back Toto. Certainly, certainly. But when you give me those slippers," the Wicked Witch of the West says as she transformed into a lioness that looks a lot like from Nala from The Lion King. "But Glinda told me not to," Dorothy said as a flying monkey took Toto from the basket and gave it a green and black lioness. She began to eat Toto by biting him with her lioness teeth, and Toto was bleeding to death. He soon died at least 15 seconds after oozing blood from his body. Then the lioness, who was green, used magic to disappear all the bones from the inside of Toto, and she ate him whole like a snake eating an animal whole. "That was good, my pretty." The green and black lioness transformed back into the Wicked Witch of the West, with blood on her teeth and bloodstains on the back on her black dress when they were hard to see. Then the Wicked Witch of the West put on her Freddy Krueger knife gloves and walked towards Dorothy, who was crying but was also angry. "You fucking ate Toto! You're such a slut who slept with a wizard!" Then I was like, since when did the Wicked Witch of the West ever have sex with a wizard? Whatever Dorothy said, I ended up acting like, the fuck? Then the Wicked Witch of the West began to shout back, "You, my pretty, are my dinner." She laughs as she cuts Dorothy open and eats her organs. I felt like I was going to be sick at this point. But after 20 seconds, the witch ate Dorothy until she was nothing but a flesh corpse on the table. She was able to get the ruby slippers as the screen faded to black, and then cut to Kansas, where Auntie Em and Uncle Henry walked into Dorothy's room to see blood and cuts all over the room. Then they screamed in horror as the screen faded to the ending credits that said, "The End." And the cast was all the same, and the screen faded to black and then it cut to static. I ejected the VHS tape as I was so scared of this horror version of The Wizard of Oz. I stayed up till like 3 in the morning because I couldn't sleep after I watched Dorothy being killed. The next day I went to the Wizard of Oz group on Facebook and messaged everyone about the group that I saw. I showed pictures, even a few videos of the footage in private messaging, since I didn't want to post it for everyone on Facebook to see because Facebook could ban me from the website. Everyone in my Wizard of Oz group was shocked at what I had found, so I decided to talk to the old man and what I saw, and I went to the garage sale. I was lucky enough to remember the street name and house number at the same time. I was also thrilled to remember the VHS tape. The old man walked me inside his house, and I sat down with him on the couch. He asked me on the VHS tape that it said The Wizard of Oz 1936. I told him that when I watched it, I was showing him photos and a few videos from the footage I had seen. The old man was shocked about it and said to throw it away when I got home. So after my visit with the old man, I just got the VHS tape that said Wizard of Oz 1936. I threw away that VHS tape a week later, and I went to see if the tape was in the garbage. It wasn't. I looked around my whole house, but it was nowhere to be found. I never saw the VHS tape again. If you come across a VHS tape with the blue star sticker on it that says Wizard of Oz 1936, don't watch it, or else your childhood will be truly and utterly ruined. And that, my little shadows, was the Wizard of Oz 1936 VHS tape, a Wizard of Oz creepypasta. Now, before I get into the review of the story, I just want to present to you all a couple of bloopers that have happened during my recording of this. And let me tell you, this was a difficult story to narrate because I couldn't stop laughing. Okay, I'm not even going to continue on anymore. Just listen for yourself, please. You're going to die laughing. Uncle Henry, Her dog. Why is a witch of the West saying that Dorothy's a son? God, I can't take this story seriously. Ah! It said, "Fuck you, Dorothy." Then I almost started. God damn it. Fuck, I can't do it. Ever have to fucking kill him? God damn it. I have an hour of cry. Toto, you're so. You're the slut who slept with a fucking. Oh my god, what? Let me tell you guys now that this entire thing was a freaking religious experience for me. This story not only managed to be a bad lost episode creepypasta, but at the same time, it was funny as all hell. However, getting back to seriousness, the story was not good in any way. Now, if this was a troll pasta or a funny pasta, it would have been able to get away with some of the things that it did, but of course, that wasn't the case for this one. So where should I begin with naming the issues with this creepypasta? For one, the grammar of the story was very, very bad in many different ways. And some of you guys may have heard me stutter a few times in the story. I want to let you guys know right now, that wasn't because of me. And I stutter a lot in my stories. That was because of the poor grammar in the story. There were run-on sentences, there were very few periods in the story, and worst part of all, commas were almost non-existent. And that right there really kind of helped screw up the whole thing with my narration. Another issue that I have with the story, and this one should be kind of obvious, is the constant swearing. Yes, I know that people swear and all that crap, but still, having constant profanity going all over the place in your creepypasta is not only ridiculous, but completely uncreative and very bland. Now this is what I would ultimately do to make the story better. For one, I would personally have someone, or even a computer, edit and correct the mistakes in it. I would have this entire rough draft completely redone. 2. I would avoid using any of the cliches as well. And number 3, I would completely and utterly rewrite everything from the second paragraph down. Completely rewrite it entirely, and actually use some proper grammar and other things as well to make the story good. I did not like the story that much, except for the fact that it was extremely funny. Overall, though, this is just my personal opinion, and if you don't agree with me, that's fine. My final verdict on the story is going to be a bit different than my usual ones. Instead of saying just my one rating, I'm gonna give it 2. If this story was a troll pasta or a funny pasta, I give this story a 9 out of 10. That's only saying if the story was not meant to be taken seriously. But seeing how this is most likely trying to be serious, I'm giving the story a 2 out of 10. The 2 points I gave for the story was because of the fact that it literally made me laugh my fucking ass off in this entire story. So what'd you guys think about this story? Did you laugh as much as I did? And if you did, tell me how much you laughed down in the comment section below. I'm the Shadow Reader, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next creepypasta reading tomorrow. Roll the outro. Hello there, my little shadows. It's me again, your master, the Shadow Reader. I hope you all enjoyed this little tale of horror. I honestly hope I didn't traumatize you too much after this. If you're new here and want to become one of my little shadows, then hit that subscribe button down below, and also make sure to turn on post notifications so that you can be the first to watch my brand new content when it comes out. Until then, sweet dreams, my little shadows.